Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Woburn High School. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Starting off, a special thank you to Principal Tom Qualey for making things possible here today. Thank you, Tom. We're just going to set the agenda here as we get started so that everyone knows we'll be doing introductions. We are so thrilled that we have three members of the Great and General Court here. The mayor is here, and we'll be hearing in a moment from Representative Rich Hagerty, Michelle Sicolo, and Michael Day. Few reminders. When you came in, everyone got a blue ticket. Did everyone get a blue ticket? Okay, we have over here, Stacy Monahan is holding, we're going to be pulling numbers just in a moment because we'll be calling out the first 4 or 5. We want to get through as many questions, so please, for questions, no long speeches. Get right to the question, please. If someone asks a question and you have the same one, maybe give someone else the other opportunity. We want to get through as many as possible. Once the questions are complete, we're going to do the same thing. I said we'll pull 4 or 5 at the beginning, and then we'll do a few others. So please, if your number is called, we're going to have you come down, and we'll have you sitting just off to the side over here, so we'll be able to go as quickly as possible. You'll see reserved seats over to the side. So thanks again for being here for our Give Us Liberty organizing event. So for people, we're going to pull numbers right now. As we pull them, if people will come down and sit off to the side here, and then we're going to get started with our local folks here. So the first one, everyone look for your numbers. Number, 576088. Are we here? Next one, shake it up. Next one here is 576078. All right. Next one here, 576107. 576164. Please come down here so we know that we right down to the front row down here. Okay. Can we do one more? If your number is called, please come down and sit right in the front row because we want to make sure we're going to get through as many questions as we possibly can. And a final one here at the moment, 576183. And as we get through those questions, we're going to call like another round. So, without any further ado, we are thrilled to have 3 members of the General Court, Representative Rich Hagerty, Michelle Sicolo, and Michael Day. Come on up.
Thanks, Jim. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here to be able to welcome everybody to Woburn. We're so proud to have both Congresswoman Clark and Senator Markey here with us this morning for this great town hall, an opportunity to connect with the community and really the community at large. I know there's a lot of folks here from far and wide across the Commonwealth to get a chance to talk with these two and listen to them about the work they're doing around defending Medicare, defending Medicaid, fighting to protect Social Security. The list goes on, all the craziness that's going on in Washington. We're so fortunate to have 2 champions right here in our district who are working for us every single day to make sure they protect the American values that we all hold dear. I'm proud to be joined with Representative Michael Day and Representative Sicolo. I'm going to give them a chance to say hello here, but again, just a big welcome to the city of Woburn here today, and we're so proud to have you join us.
Thanks. Good morning, all. I'm going to get out of the way very quickly because you're not here to hear from the reps at this stage. But rest assured, we are also in the fight here in Massachusetts. Wake up daily, thanking God we live in Massachusetts, where we can lead the country from the State House through the United States Congress. I'm going to hand it off to Representative Sicolo, who's got a piece of Woburn now. I'm a Woburn kid, but no longer living in Woburn, so happy to be back home for a bit. And hopefully Jim Cantwell doesn't yell at us anymore, as he started off this morning doing. We can hear Congressman Clark and Senator Markey. But thank you all for having us here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm State Rep Michelle Sicolo, and I'm here from Lexington and Woburn, and Winchester is my district, 15th Middlesex. It is awesome to see so many people here. This event was planned at the last minute on a rainy Saturday morning, and the enormity of what we are facing is so evident by the turnout we have here this morning. So you, as my colleagues have said, you're not here to hear me. You're here to hear our wonderful senator and congresswoman. So we're going to get to the program so you have more time with them. So again, thank you everyone for being here.
All right, we're going to have one of the. We are ready then. So from here, we're going to have the remarks from both the senator and from the congresswoman. Then I'm going to go right to questions. So without further ado, let's please welcome our champions in protecting our liberties and way of life, Senator Ed Markey and Congresswoman Clark.
It is truly wonderful to see you all. And as we are about to mark 250 years since the battles of Lexington and Concord, and an event that Woburn will celebrate right after this, how fitting to be here with all of you to celebrate a band of patriots facing off against a mad king. Because, like King George, our mad king didn't think anyone would challenge him. He thought he would have a honeymoon period, that he would keep us off balance with his strategy of chaos. He thought he would steamroll us. But guess what? We are witnessing the uprising. And I just want to give you a few figures from just last week and a shout out to Indivisible and the Hands Off rallies. So what did we see last weekend? 3,500 people in Anchorage, Alaska. 2,000 people in Louisville, Kentucky, where they were having torrential rains. 6,000 in Pittsburgh, 9,000 in Milwaukee, 20,000 in Atlanta, 30,000 in Chicago, and I was happy to join the 100,000 in the National Mall. But then we get to the folks who know something about tariffs and taxes and the true Tea Party. 100,000 people came together in Boston. Let's celebrate that. And we were loud and clear in our message. Hands off Social Security, hands off Medicaid, hands off food programs, hands off our public school funding, hands off the VA. This is what is resonating around this country. And you know what the Mass GOP said? They said, the Democrats, quote, seem intent on stirring up trouble. You're damn right. You're damn right we are. And I believe the Mass GOP on this one because of all of you and for being here, for your calls, for your letters, for your emails, for sharing your stories, for the organizing you're doing and the work you're going to do. And this is how we win. This is how we protect our country, our democracy, our economy, our security, our civil rights, our right to vote, and most of all, how we protect people in our communities. So thank you for being part of it. I want to thank everyone who has a table that we'll all be going to sign up, find the way that you want to participate in this moment. And I also want to thank someone who is just a leader in fighting for our freedoms and democracy, my friend, our Senator, Ed Markey.
Thank you. Thank you, Katherine. And Katherine is great on the floor of the House of Representatives every single day. When she moves up to the podium, to the microphone, the Republicans take a step back now. Oh my God, what is coming my way from Katherine Clark? Because they're in for a battle every single day on the floor of the United States House of Representatives with our great leader who brings this revolutionary spirit. And by the way, Woburn, are you ready to fight, Woburn? Huh? Are you ready to get up and fight? So thank you all for being here. This is the 250th anniversary of the Redcoats going down Mass Ave. And King George, as Katherine said, was saying, well, we're going to put all these laws on you, but you don't get any representation. No representation for you in Woburn, in Lexington, in all of these communities. And those revolutionary Minutemen and Minutewomen, they rose up, coming down from Woburn, coming over from Lincoln and Lexington and Concord, ready to resist the king. So that is what we are doing right now. And we have to take back our government, we have to take back our democracy, and we're going to have to fight in order to win that battle. So that's where we are right now in our nation. And last weekend, I think King Donald saw what is coming their way. And we thank you, Indivisible. We thank you, 5051. We thank all the groups that helped to organize that incredible. Thank you, Deb Paul, for what you did to, on short notice, put it together. By the way, for 48 hours, thank you, Woburn. You rose up like the Minutemen and Minutewomen of 250 years ago. Thank you to Mayor Mike Concannon for hosting us today. Thank you to Rich Haggerty. Thank you to Michelle Socolo. Thank you to Rep. Mike Day. Thanks to former State Representative Carol Donovan for being here. Thank you, Carol, still in the fight. City Councilor Bob Ferrulo, School Committee Member Jesse Wetzel, and Jennifer Jones, the Woburn Democratic City Committee Chair. Thank you all so much for being here. So last weekend, we told Donald Trump, Elon Musk, that they are not kings, that they had to keep hands off of our democracy. No one elected Elon Musk to do anything, much less run our government. No one made Donald Trump king. No Trump third term. That is absolutely 100% unconstitutional, and we're going to make that very clear to him. And we know how to start a revolution here in Massachusetts. That's who we are. And this is the revolutionary part of the entire world. It started right here 250 years ago with those Minutemen and Minutewomen. And they got knocked down, but they did not get knocked out. They got up, they fought, and they won. The abolitionist movement, it started right here. They got knocked down. They did not get knocked out. They got up, they fought, and they won. The suffragette movement, it started right here. They got knocked down. They did not get knocked out. They got up, they fought, and they won. The civil rights movement, the freedom riders going south, they got knocked down. They did not get knocked out. They got up, they fought, they won. The same-sex marriage movement, it started right here. They got knocked down. They did not get knocked out. They got up, they fought, and they won. And the same thing is true right now. Trump is trying to knock us down, but they're not knocking us out. We're going to get up and we're going to win. We're going to fight. We're going to fight for democracy every single day. They want to cut Medicaid by $880 billion. They want to cut SNAP by $230 billion. They want to gut the EPA. They want to gut ultimately Medicare, and they want to loot Social Security. They need the revenues in order to find a massive tax break for millionaires and billionaires in our country who do not need it and do not deserve it. So that's the battle that we are in every single day across the House and Senate floor. And every single day we are going to fight for them. And that is why I am not voting for any nominee of Donald Trump to be confirmed into his administration. I'm not voting for any of them. They're all part of this incredible concerted effort to undermine our government and to make it impossible for it to work. So we thank all of you for joining us today, and we're really looking forward to your questions. So whenever you're ready, and I don't know where the questions will come from, but please.
So again, please no speeches, but we're going to have the first 5 questions, and we'll have both the senator and the whip to answer each of them. Sir, if you'll be the first question here, and then for the others, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So good morning. Thank you so much, Senator, Congresswoman, for coming back out to Woburn, and for your staff for making this happen. So my name is Anthony. I'm an Air Force veteran. I've been using VA healthcare since, thank you. For all of us, it's an honor to serve. I've been using it since 2017. It's improved a lot since I got out. And I know with the new administration, the VA secretary has said repeatedly, benefits and services will not be cut, but we're going back to 2019 staffing levels. That's before the PACT Act. So I guess my question is, and I know there's a lot of anxiety in the veteran community right now, what is the Senate and the House doing to kind of keep the VA secretary and this administration to that oath, to make sure, especially with appointments, that veterans can still access their care as they were and there's no impacts? Thank you.
Thank you. Can we go first? Thank you so much. And ooh, that is so loud. And thank you for your service and for being here. This is one of the greatest betrayals that we have seen in a long list of betrayals of the American people, is that the current GOP has turned their back on our veterans. You cannot provide the health care that they deserve when you lay off 80,000 people at the VA. That is their plan, and it just doesn't work. And it is a plan we are seeing repeated over and over, that you break it, you break the system, you break Social Security, you break the Veterans Administration, so you can rob the benefits and give them back to the billionaire class in tax cuts. That's the playbook over and over and over again. So we are holding, because they wouldn't bring the witnesses forward that we wanted to hear from, we had our own hearing this week in Washington on veterans benefits. And we not only heard from veterans who are now being denied care, but we heard from Officer Tuning, who had been working in the VA in the innovation. He served in Afghanistan, and he was in charge, part of the IT, in working on the systems to increase the speed at which we can get benefits, to decrease wait times. All of his section has been laid off. And that is just the way they are hoping to build doubt about the ability of the government to deliver these benefits in order to take them away. So we're going to continue to press this issue, not only in the hearings that we're doing in Washington, about to take on the road, but also making sure that we are using every power we have in the Oversight Committee, in the Veterans Committee, the Armed Services Committee, to hold them accountable. But it's really going to be a concerted effort to go to the places where they are not hearing from their member of Congress, to talk about these issues, to hold hearings in those communities so that veterans get the real information about what is happening. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I'm what Katherine just said is absolutely on the money. They want to lay off 80,000 workers at the VA. By the way, most of them are veterans themselves who work there, manning the suicide hotline, for example, for vets that are suffering from still PTSD from the Iraq War, from the Afghanistan War. They still need help. They served us, and the trade-off, the responsibility is that we serve them after they are no longer in uniform. And what they are doing is, again, trying to systematically undermine all of that funding so that they can loot it for the tax breaks for bottom line, for Jeff Bezos and for Elon Musk and for all of the billionaire boys club. That's what it's all about. So what we're going to do is we're putting them on record. We've already done it in the earliest phases of this budget process where they all have to vote. Are you going to allow for those cuts to take place or not? And ultimately, veterans are now storming offices of Republicans all across the country as they see their initial votes to cut veterans' benefits. And that's what this is going to be all about. It's going to be veterans who are angry, Social Security recipients who are angry, Medicaid recipients, environmentalists, anger, 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 anger. You have no right to do this. So the vets, though, they have a special place, though, right? They are the latter-day descendants of the Minutemen and Minutewomen from right here. And they really do deserve all those benefits. So we're going to make sure that we fight for them every single day and preserve all of those benefits and give them more if necessary. We just passed the PACT Act 2 years ago to ensure that for those who were most affected by being exposed to chemicals during the wars of the 21st century, that they get the help which they need. But it also covers Agent Orange and other diseases from the 60s and the 70s, okay? They never did receive the full benefits. So we're going to fight every single day to make sure they're made accountable. And at the end of the day, I think we're going to find enough Republicans to say, hands off veterans' benefits, hands off the VA. So thank you for that great question.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Hadley. I have been following a lot of the news regarding Kilmar Abrego Garcia lately, and I saw that the Supreme Court just ruled unanimously that the Trump administration has to bring him back. And in the press secretary speech yesterday, she said that they don't have any plans really to do so. So I'm not an attorney. I don't know what happens next, and I've seen many immigrants now who are here legally get deported wrongly, including him, and I'm wondering what happens next. How do we make sure he gets home to his family? And the same goes for Rumesa and Mohammed Khalid as well.
You go first.
Okay. I think when all of us saw those law enforcement officials wearing masks grab a young woman and whisk her away, that each of us was angry at what had happened. We felt an anger that those who were affected felt. Okay? And Rumesa is a perfect example of the unconstitutional, illegal actions which the Trump administration is taking. She is not charged with any crime. There is no evidence which has been brought forward by the Trump administration with regard to any crime which she committed. And the same thing is true, by the way, for student after student at Massachusetts colleges and colleges across this country who are being targeted by the Trump administration. And so we have to continue to raise our voices. The courts are saying, in the absence of evidence, you cannot hold these people. You need to have a crime. So we know that there's an unconstitutional set of activities being executed by the Department of Homeland Security on orders from the White House. And we just have to keep putting a spotlight on this in order ultimately to put the pressure on the courts. Because this is illegal, what is happening. This is unconstitutional. Mesa did not commit any crime, and we have to ensure that she is released, okay? And we're all going to band together in order to achieve that goal. Katherine.
Yeah. I mean, if this doesn't send chills, you're not paying attention. That video of Mesa being kidnapped off the streets of a community in our state, a Fulbright scholar studying child development, and what is the alleged crime? Co-authoring a op-ed in a student newspaper, but we really have no idea why she was targeted. And to watch the videos of Mr. Khalil. And now we have a father of 3 who is a union member, legally residing here, who has never lived in the place they claim this gang is operating, taken away, sent to El Salvador, to what is known to be a horrific prison. Well, you know, there are many options on the table. But here's the thing. This is, what we are seeing is not only this abuse of due process, it will not stop here. And Justice Sotomayor said in her opinion this week, there is nothing in the government's argument, in our Department of Justice argument, that would say this doesn't apply to citizens. Because the way they've made their argument, it would apply to anybody that they decide they don't want to hear from anymore. And that is why we have to do everything we can. And if they fail to comply with this order to bring this, and we can argue over effectuate versus facilitate, but the order is clear. He needs to come back. There needs to be due process. And to say that we are going to pay El Salvador $6 million of our taxpayer dollars to send these people there. And I want you to know there is a congressional trip being led by the chairman of Ways and Means, a Republican in the House. I don't know who else is on this trip, to that prison this week. If you can go there for a photo op, you can bring back the legal residents who were sent there without any due process.
Thank you. I'm John Curran. I'm a town manager and former mayor of the city of Woburn. And my question, and I want to thank both of you for coming here to our community today. It's a pleasure to have you here. My question is about education, and there's really a perfect storm around the cost of education in Massachusetts, and I presume around the nation. A lot of it has to do with COVID and everything that's happened, and all the mental health issues that are arising from all these things. But special education costs and education, I see as a local official, going through the roof, and budgets are about 40 to 45% special education costs. That includes out-of-district tuitions, which I have one student that's $500,000 for one student, and $70,000 is the average transportation cost for one kid to be transferred to an out-of-district placement. So it's untenable, and this couldn't come at a worse time that Trump has cut the Department of Education, and the level of uncertainty around local officials trying to put budgets together. What is going to happen with that money that has traditionally come into the states, and what are we looking at for the future of education in this country?
Yeah, this is one of the many areas where we, it is so outrageous what they are proposing to do. He said it in his campaign. I'm going to take away Department of Education. It is written down in Project 2025 that they will end Title I funding. And so right now they are proposing dramatic cuts. And if we have to stand up for this, because like you said, we have laws in this country that if kids need special education to meet their needs, they get that. But that cannot be done with local and state budgets. You have to have the help from the federal government. The costs are just way too high. So if they pull back any part of that, if they take Title I out, all of the system suffers. And especially if they go after IDEA and that funding. All of it is a plan to take our public school funding and rechannel it out to private schools through voucher. That's the plan that's afoot here, to strip the public out of public schools. And we're not only the birthplace of the American Revolution, but we know something about Horace Mann and public schools here in Massachusetts. And we have the scores to prove it. We always want to do better. But you cannot look at Massachusetts and say this system doesn't work. It does work, and it is at the core of democracy. My mom was a public school librarian, and then she became our town librarian. So we always had a debate, is it the schools or the libraries that are the biggest pillar of democracy? And she's like, it's both. It's school librarians, but it is that ability for every kid in every zip code to be able to access the education they deserve, and to pay our teachers a fair wage, and to make sure that we are expanding early education and childcare, not taking away Head Start. But when you got a lot of billionaires coming in, like Elon Musk and his Dojets, who don't care about any of this, we're going to be in a crisis. And Massachusetts has already seen over $100 million that was coming to us stopped. And that's real projects. That's an elementary school in our district in Revere that has had that construction halted. That is programming that is already endangered, and that they are just beginning. And it's part of this strategy of chaos. It is so hard to follow all the outrage. And that's why we have to pick our lane, sign up today for how you are going to be involved. But it's so important that we are going and asking these questions locally. What would happen to the Woburn school budget if Title I funding no longer exists? It's going to be devastating, just as you pointed out. And so this is something that they're sort of slow rolling, but as we go into this reconciliation process, which is their budget process, all aimed at getting at these tax cuts for the very wealthiest and making that winner circle in this country so small and doesn't include a single person in this room. This is the type of threat to our communities and our kids that we have to fight back against. That's right. So here's the plan. We do three different things. First, we go to the courts, because when you have illegal breaking of contracts, breaking of appropriation bills, of funding that has already been set by Congress, that's our first stop. We filed over 179 lawsuits to date with our outside partners. We've only had standing in Congress to file one, which we have filed around voting rights. I have personally signed 6 amicus briefs to support those efforts, and we have to continue to support groups like Democracy Forward, public advocates who are bringing these suits, our Democratic AGs like our incredible Andrea Campbell. So that's our first stop. The second stop is Congress. And what we can do as minority parties is limited, but we have to use every tool we have. And one of them is a bully pulpit. Getting out there, making sure that we are talking about these, challenging, writing the letters, asking for the witnesses, holding our own hearings as we have in the House, and they're also being done in the Senate. So far, we've done it on Social Security, on Medicaid, on SNAP programs, and veterans benefits. Public education is coming up. And we make sure that we are broadcasting those and holding those people accountable. Then we go into their communities and holding the town halls in all the Democratic places in 35 states around the country, but also in Republican town halls, where people are not getting the information, where those members of Congress have been told not to hold town halls, don't talk to the people, and going in and holding town halls with local leaders to make sure they understand what's happening to their schools. But the real power is in mobilizing, and that's why we're all here today, because we cannot do it in Congress alone, even though we can lead a media effort and use every tool to highlight this and protest their votes. They want to do these cuts. They can do it without a single Democratic vote. And that is what we have held in the House of Representatives. They won't get one vote from us. They want to shut down government, then you own that. You want to pass these budgets that are cutting all of these programs people depend on, you're not getting help from us. But that's not going to be enough either. We've got to mobilize and mobilize together, and that's why we're here. And that's why your voice in this is the critical piece, because we have to take away their political power in a formal way in 26, but we can't wait to 26. We have to chip away at it every single day. Every single day.
Beautiful. So, we take it to the courts, we take it to the floor of Congress, House and Senate, and we take it to the streets. Okay? That's what it's all about. Yeah. It's a simple 3-point plan. And by the way, it's working. It's working. We just won the Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin by 15 points. Those are the people rising up. Elise Stefanik is not going to be the ambassador to the United Nations because although she won her seat by 22 points 5 months ago, they don't think that that her successor could win that seat in next month in New York, okay? They are not confident of that. So it's working. It's rising up, and all across the country. It's not the fear of God that moves Republicans. It's the fear of voters. Right. Congress is a stimulus response institution. There's nothing more stimulating than millions of people rising up across our nation that we saw last Saturday. Again, thank you, Indivisible. Thank you, 5051. Thank you to everyone else for rising up, showing how people are absolutely not going to take it. So I serve on the Education Committee in the United States Senate. Therefore, we confirm who the Secretary of Education is going to be. So Donald Trump said he's only going to get the best people, going to do a nationwide search, only pick the very best people, only the best people. And after a very thorough, complete search of everyone in the country, he decided to name Linda McMahon, the CEO of the World Wrestling Federation, as the head of the Department of Education. Now, she came into my office. She sat across from me. For 1 hour, I got to have a conversation with her, just following up on Katherine. So I said, you know, there's a rumor, and it's in Project 2025, that you may try to gut Title I, the funding for poor children all across the country. Is that true? Well, she said, I'm going to study it. Okay, good. Number 2, in Project 2025, it says you're going to gut the funding for disabled kids across our state. That's hundreds of thousands of kids and across the nation. But in Massachusetts, hundreds of thousands. I'm going to study it. Well, It says in Project 2025 that you're going to absolutely eviscerate, obliterate the Department of Education and end it. Is that true? I'm going to study it. And also that you're going to take the funding and put it into vouchers for private schools and not for the public schools. I'm going to study it, she says. So I voted with the greatest of enthusiasm against her confirmation on the floor of the United States Senate. And then the very next day, after thinking about it for 24 hours, she issues the orders to gut Title I, disability, all the way down the line, okay? So it's a plan. They lie, they lie, they lie, they lie. That's what it is all about. And what we're going to have to do is just continue to educate our country. Because 100 years ago, the kids in the blue-collar communities didn't get the same education as the kids in the wealthy communities. And 20% kids are only 20% of our nation, but they're 100% of our future, and that includes the poor and the working-class kids as well as the kids from the wealthier communities. And all this funding is helping to equalize that opportunity right at the starting line, to make sure that there's more funding that goes in for kids that 100 years ago just didn't have those resources in their community. And for Woburn, that funding comes in, Title I. That funding comes in for kids with disabilities. You know, that makes it much more likely that every child in the community is going to get what they need to maximize their God-given abilities, okay? That's what the progressive movement, that's what progressives for 100 years have done, to try to just equalize all of the benefits of living in our great society, our great country. And so Whip Clark and I, we're going to fight as hard as we can every single day. Put them on record, okay, and let them all know that they're going to pay a huge political price. Trump's not running in 2026, but all of them are, okay? And they're going to have to decide as each day goes by, looking over at Elise Stefanik, you know, am I going to lose my seat because I voted against what the people have told me is the right vote on education? So we're going to be there and be fighting for you. So thank you all so much.
Can I just
No, please.
mention two more races? Wisconsin was such a victory, especially against Elon Musk, and saying you're not coming in and buying with your $1 million lotteries and your $27 million that he put into that race, this race. So that was a key victory. But there were also two state Senate races that have happened. One in Iowa. And Iowa, just in this district, went for Trump. We had a Democrat running for Congress there who lost by 600 votes. There are no federal in Iowa, no Dems in federal or statewide office at the moment. But this state senator won in a double-digit Trump won district just a few months before. And then on the same day as Wisconsin, we saw that repeat itself in Pennsylvania, where a state senator won, where there hasn't been a Democrat, I believe, since 1854. And so this is very real. And I think we have a slide. I don't know if it's easy to put up, but we have expanded our battleground because we are watching. So here's our folks. And these are the districts that were not in play but are now in play because of all of you and the shifting ground and activism that is taking away their power.
Wonderful. And we want to know, Jennifer Jones, who is the chair of the Woburn Democratic Town Committee, was here talking, Whip and Senator, about all those different races to focus on. We did the first five. We're going to go to this gentleman, but we're going to pick two more here so that folks can come on down while we're doing the questions, please. 576-032 and 576-059. Please come on down here. Just that we go faster that way. Sir, if you want to come up.
morning, Senator Markey, Congresswoman Clark. My name's Phil McGovern. I live on Forest Park Road in Woburn. Thank you very much for being here this morning. My question focuses on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Over the past 4 years, I've always had a great appreciation for those programs. Over the past 4 years, I've gained a very personal understanding of their practical impact on individuals. My youngest brother is developmentally disabled since birth. 4 years ago, he had a catastrophic cardiac and pulmonary event, 10-month hospitalization, home, and over this time, I am his sole surviving family member at this point and his primary caregiver over this time. He has a modest Social Security survivor's benefit earned by our parents over many decades of hard work. He's covered by Medicare due to his developmental disability, and the same with Medicaid. What I've discovered and really I've come to fully understand these past years is how critical these three programs are in their interconnectedness, and interconnectedness with a fourth element, which is as critical, which is family support. So it's, Johnny through his life in this building or its predecessor was highly active in many programs in the community. He's still very active in the community, as many in this audience would attest. And Medicaid in particular provides essential life, not only life extending, but quality of life developing tools that I use daily, all day. I'm at work, and have arranged to use home ventilator, non-invasive ventilation, home cough assist treatments, suction, oxygen, and arranged for this and private duty nursing on those few times a year that I'm not available to be at home. I'm sure that I'm not the only one, that there are tens, hundreds of thousands probably people across this country who depend on this. And I'm not sure that I'm sure that many of your colleagues on the GOP side have an appreciation for this at some level. They don't live in a bubble. But at the same time, they're building what would be, catastrophic cuts into their budget plans and their appropriation plans. So I'd be interested, and I think the group would be interested in hearing more about the legislative strategy that will be employed to put a stop to those. It'll be harder in the House, I believe, than in the Senate. But if you could both talk on how bicameral, both House and Senate, will be working together to make sure that Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid will continue to be a partner to families across the United States.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you, and thank you for what you do for your brother. But you are, as you said, representative of millions of families. 7 million Americans have Alzheimer's right now. And as everyone who has someone like that in their family, they know that there's one other person in the family who becomes the caregiver. So that's 14 million people who have to figure out Alzheimer's. And 15 million baby boomers are going to wind up with Alzheimer's. And because there's one other person in the family who starts to take responsibility, that would be 30 million people. So what you do is absolutely essential, and you're a hero, but all the families who deal with all of these incredible afflictions which comes into their family's history, they're heroes, but heroes need help. Heroes need help. 100 years ago, life expectancy in the United States was 48 years of age. We had gone from the Garden of Eden to 100 years ago, and life expectancy was 48 years of age. And then the progressive movement started. And it said, we're going to start to provide safe drinking water, safe food to eat. We're going to have vaccines for children. We're going to put Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and Head Start and program after program on the books to completely revolutionize the relationship between ordinary families and this country. Life expectancy is now 79 years of age. 31 bonus years have been added. But even with those bonus years, there are people who need special help, such as your family, your brother Johnny. And those programs are there. And what Donald Trump and Elon Musk have said is that that's waste and fraud and corruption. But we know that that's just code for cut, 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 cut in order to find the $2 trillion which they need for their tax breaks for the upper 1 percentile in our country. They have to cut Medicaid by $880 billion. They have to cut education. They have to cut environment. They have to cut veterans' benefits. They have to cut it all. So, on the floor of the Senate, what we are doing, again, is we're making them vote on these cuts. We're making them have to absolutely, publicly be held responsible for the incredible, cruel damage which they are going to inflict upon families like yours and families like many who are gathered here and by the tens of millions all across the country. These are lifelines for families. This is what provides dignity to a family, to be able to have their loved one treated with the respect and the love which they deserve. And to have the billionaires say that they're going to loot this money that goes to ordinary families is no different than the robber barons, in 100 years ago, 120 years ago, we're trying to do. Nothing for the regular people. So all I can tell you is that we're going to fight insistently, persistently, consistently on the floor. My father used to say to me, who was a union leader, that you can't beg for freedom, you got to take it, okay? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to put them on the record. And as they get closer and closer and closer to the definitive vote, which is in the reconciliation bill, that's where the rubber hits the road. They're going to know by then that they are not going to survive if they do this. And again, the courts have already ruled that those freezes on funding are unconstitutional. So the courts are, in general, saying that those freezes are unconstitutional. They're trying, notwithstanding that, to act in a way, that makes it difficult for people to receive those benefits, okay? But ultimately, this day of decision is coming for every House and Senate Republican. And my own belief is that they're going to have a tough time when that day of reckoning comes. And it might come in 6 weeks, might come in 2 months. We still don't know when they're going to bring out that final bill. But then we're going to make them vote on every one of these things to make sure that they are held accountable. And if we continue to rise up, if we continue to fight, then you're going to start to see an erosion of support by Republicans. You can see by the tens of thousands the people who show up when Bernie and AOC go into Republican districts. You can see what happens, okay? There's a revolution going on out there, huh? And so we're going to have very nervous Republicans if we continue this action. Katherine, sorry.
Wow, thanks for the promotion there. So we know how devastating this is, and thank you for coming and telling your story. This is what takes this from $880 billion, which is hard to even take in the proposed cut, and makes it about people and families and what's happening in our communities. But the question that I hear from this audience is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? So this is what we're doing about it. We are not only holding the line in the House, we're not giving them a single vote, but as this progresses to the committees, we also have ways to jam those committees. We have ways, we don't have the filibuster, But we have ways to shut down floor activity, at least temporarily, do the sort of things that can bring attention to what they're trying to do quietly. And I want to give you, we don't have the filibuster in the House, but we have other things that we can do that gum up the works as we build this outside pressure. And I want to tell one story about David Valadao, who is a congressman from the Central Valley of California. 2/3 of his constituents receive Medicaid. 2/3. And the largest hospital there is in Fresno, California. It's a trauma hospital. It is the first or second busiest hospital every year in the entire state. It isn't like it might close. It will close if these cuts go through. So you're going to close almost every rural nursing home in the country, many hospitals, and in his district, take away a benefit from 2/3 of the people who live in his district. So David Valadao wrote a letter to the speaker saying, these cuts are untenable. Then he turned around 2 weeks later and voted for it. So we went to his district and did town halls, took out advertisements, worked with partners who also did digital ads, billboards, brought that message to his constituents that you can't do both things. You can't say these cuts are untenable and then turn around and vote for it. Then they decided they would sue us on the basis of saying it doesn't say Medicaid in there. So these ads are false. I mean, I don't even know how you look in the mirror with that level of shamelessness and hypocrisy. And then, so they have no shame. Shamelessness is their superpower, and we can't forget it. But then this week, we're back voting on it. The Senate Republicans decided to not take on these cuts because they are feeling the heat from all of you and the actions we're taking. And they said, well, we'll just do funny math. And we'll say that these tax cuts, we already paid for them. So when we renew them, we don't have to pay for them. What? I mean, that's like saying, well, I paid off my mortgage on my old house, so when I buy the new house, it's paid for. I mean, it doesn't work that way anywhere. It doesn't work in Congress on these tax cuts. So then my colleagues on the other side of the aisle in the House say, wait a minute, we want to make sure you are going to cut $1.5 to $2 trillion out of the budget. We don't trust the Senate to not make these very cuts to your family. And then they all start fighting with each other. And at the end of the day, what happens? David Valadao walks off the floor and doesn't vote. But that's not going to cut it. So first you vote against people, then you decide you won't vote. After all he's been through, he's not going to stand up and say no. And so he's going to get the same onslaught of ads and activation in his district. And this is what we have to do. Use every tool to disrupt them that we have in Congress, and then we have to go to their districts and use our advertising dollars, use our mobilization to bring home what they are doing, this zombie effect, that they know it's the wrong thing for folks at home, and they march right in line with whatever Donald Trump and Elon Musk tell them to do. And so, you know, we have the big showdown is coming up because we also have a debt ceiling vote that is coming up. And they always need Democratic votes for that. None of us want to let our country plunge off in its full faith and credit. But when you're going to hold it hostage to this level of cuts, for tax cuts for billionaires, They can do that on their own.
Yep. You might have noticed that Donald Trump just decided to get into a global tariff war with every country in the world, including an island that only has penguins on it, and impose tariffs on it. You might have noticed that. And experts say that it's going to lead to $5,000 of additional costs for all American consumers per year. And to just show you the pressure the Republicans are feeling, Senator Tom Tillis from North Carolina, on Thursday of this week, he's running in 2026, he said, all I want to know is, where do I go in the White House to find the person to wring their neck for what they're imposing upon my consumers on Main Street in North Carolina? So that is an indication, okay, of how much pressure that they are all feeling. And on top of the tariffs is Medicaid, is education, is every other program, including the kinds of programs that deal with your brother Johnny. And they're hearing it, and we just have to keep the pressure up. And in the Senate, we are making them drag out. We didn't finish our roll calls until 3 a.m. yesterday. Last week, we finished at 6 a.m. in the morning. So we're making them take every single minute that is required in order to deal with all of these issues. They haven't even had time to take up one more judge. There's no time for them. We're dragging it out. We are dragging it out. We're not going to make it easy for them. And so we're gonna absolutely make them earn every one of their malevolent victories, okay, and put a spotlight on them as each day goes by. So that tariff, you know, and I'm sure all of you had like a Pepto-Bismol moment at your kitchen table saying, what is happening to my 401k? What is happening to my savings account? Well, it happens in Republican homes too. And by the way, same thing is true for Alzheimer's and all diseases. They're not red, they're not blue, they're not Democrat, they're not Republican, they're not South. Okay, they affect everyone. And to the extent to which we can tell that universal story, we're going to be successful. So yes.
We are about 14 minutes over time, but we wanted to get to the final question, and then we're noting we have 24 organizations here today that are among the groups that are our partners in this fight. So they're going to be tabling outside after this question. They'll be there to be able to help and talk about what they're doing to promote democracy and promote liberty. Sir.
Senator Whip, thank you for your time. One of the things that's come up that's kind of a crisis for me in trying to have faith in the Democratic Party, and I don't know if there's other people feel this way, is obviously the kind of discrepancy between kind of justice for the upper class or billionaires and the lower class, where people can be kidnapped without due process, but say like Ralph De La Tour or the Sackler family or Elon Musk should all be in prison, and they're not, and due process kind of ends up with them just paying a small fine or whatever and go back to your nice cushy life. And kind of, Senator, you mentioned some big conflicts in American history, the Revolution, the fight for abolition of slavery, civil rights, and women's suffragette. And notably, there's unfortunately a big difference between the kind of first two on that list and the latter two in terms of where they went to in terms of what was required to resolve those conflicts. And I greatly prefer we stick to the latter two. Civil disobedience, I think that's the way forward. One of the things I kind of struggle with the Democratic Party is if things do get worse and the right goes, hey, whatever, we're going to ignore the courts, and the courts don't show accountability and do their jobs, is the Democratic Party thinking about, are we ready to pivot in the case that the worst does come to pass? And it's just, kind of being even reassured by that. Like, I don't want my house to burn down, but, like, it's good to know I have a plan in case it does. And it doesn't quite feel that that's been getting communicated from the Democrats of, we got to fight, but what does it mean to, when we finally get backed into a corner? But, yeah, sir.
I sort of missed part of that.
First of all, we're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to pressure them right now. Okay, we're going to create the pressure that absolutely forces them to back off of all of these critical programs. And what you're saying is, what we can do. I just saw a story that just popped this morning. Tesla sales went down 11% in the first quarter of this year. Okay, that's people out there. Well, we have to do it nonviolently. We have to do it nonviolently, but we're sending a signal to all of those people who are in that billionaire class what, in fact, is going to be the price they're going to be forced to pay. So we need to absolutely, every single day. That's why I'm voting no on every nominee. That's why I'm putting holds on their nominees, so that it forces the absolute longest time that has to be consumed in order to have any nominee at any one of these agencies to come out onto the floor of the Senate. And that's why we need, again, to rise up, okay, to have the echo of what is happening. Number one, they are absolutely trying to gut democracy and our Constitution. Number two, they're trying to gut all of the programs that were put on the books over the last 2 generations that protects all families. And number three, we're all going to have to be like Cory Booker, up and fighting and speaking and standing with all of the people out there who are going to be most harmed, most vulnerable, most likely to suffer if these programs are cut. That is what we have to do. We have to make sure that we don't get tired, that we don't get worn down, that we stand up every single day, and that we fight. And what we saw in Elise Stefanik, what we saw in Wisconsin, what we saw in Iowa, what we're seeing in Pennsylvania, they're rising up, and they're not just rising up in blue Massachusetts, they're rising up across the country. They don't want these programs to be cut, and if they do it, then they're going to do it at their own political peril. They're going to do it with the end of their career now, the most likely outcome of what they're doing. Okay, so it just is going to require us to do it. And again, we have to do it nonviolently, but we have to stand and fight. Okay, and so that's kind of what I'm promising you on the floor of the United States Senate. That's what I've been doing every single day. It's why I think that the inspiration comes from the people, and especially it comes from young people. We have to follow the young people. The young people want us to fight for everyone. They want us to fight for the transgender community. They want us to fight to make sure that the LGBT community is not made to be victimized. They want us to fight to make sure that climate change is fought and that we keep those programs on the books. I went over to the EPA with some members of Congress, and I went right into the EPA to demand that I be able to talk to the Doge 25-year-olds who are up in the building asking questions of biologists and chemists and physicists to justify their existence. A bunch of 25-year-old Dogers making them, and the police just pushed me out of the building, okay? But in pushing out a United States senator, they're pushing out you. They're pushing out everybody. They're saying that you don't have any rights, huh? And so that's just what we have to do. We have to resist. We have to stand up. We have to fight. We have to do it, and we have to believe that we can win, okay? And if we don't, then the effects are really going to hit those people who are most vulnerable in our society. And we owe them the obligation, those people who are most vulnerable, that we will stand up, we will fight, okay? That's who I care most about here. Most of us will be able somehow or other to make it through, but those people who have always been at the margins of our society, those are the programs that we put on the books, okay? And so I give you my word, I will fight as hard as is humanly possible on the Senate floor every single day, making it difficult, if not impossible, for them to move forward on an agenda which is anti-American, anti-constitutional, and illegal. okay? And we will do our absolute best to fulfill what your mission is for us. Whip
Thank
clock.
you, Senator.
Whip clock.
Thank you. And that is my commitment as well. These are unprecedented times, certainly in my lifetime, and as we look through history, and we have to meet this level of lawlessness with outrage and fight and strategy. And the first thing that we have to do is build public sentiment. And that's why we have to continue to mobilize, to bring these votes to the floor, to put them on record, and then go and talk to their communities about how they are enabling Donald Trump in every bad impulse that he has. And it is so much coming at people that it can be paralyzing, but that's why we're here today, to say that we understand the urgency of this moment. And we understand that our Constitution, which they are trying to shred every day, has two key protections for this time. One is that federal judges have lifetime tenureship, so they cannot be subject to what this president wants them to do. And we have to support and fight for that. And the second is that the House of Representatives, all of us are up every 2 years. So that accountability is coming for every single member, Democrat, Republican, every single member. And those two things are key parts of the framework for meeting this time. And so there is a bill that we are seeing, doing our own hearings, holding town halls in their districts as well as ours, strengthening our media presence in social media and YouTube, and making sure we're talking to people where they get their news. Because if you read a newspaper, you're already voting against all of this. But most people don't get their news there. So we have to be in those places and amplify this message and meet their misinformation with our truth and facts. And then we are quickly coming to a place, I hope not, but it seems inevitable, where the Supreme Court is going to give them an order and they are not going to follow it. It could come as early, but we are coming, there are shades here, but we are coming to it fast, especially around this case in El Salvador. And so we will wait. We will see what the judge does next in the next hearing, but there is going to be a time where you cannot even continue all the things we're doing, where you have to do more and show that this cannot continue, that we're not going to take this attack on our Constitution and have business as usual in any way, shape, or form. So we build public sentiment, we mobilize, we use every tool we have, and if it gets to that moment of crisis, then we have to act together and make sure that we are ready to do what it takes to protect this country. And they have the power, they have the majorities in the Senate and the House and the White House, but we have each other. And the people will always win over power if we are together, if we're united, and if we are courageous. And it is like a formation, and we're all part of it. And we all have to be on this mission to do all that all of us can do. And if you get tired, if you're in despair, then you get in the back of the formation and you rest, but we keep going. Because this is their plan. You've heard Steve Bannon talk about it. Third term coming. I mean, this is their plan, to steal your money and give it to the very wealthiest. And they are doing it systematically. And all of us, that's why you're here today, have to do what we can do. So let's get out there and join these organizations. Do what we have to do. Be at the protests. Just this week, we're at the trans visibility protest and rally on the mall, at the fair share on the mall, at the hands off on the mall, and the thousands of people around this country, the millions of people who are with us. We can't lose track. This was a close election, and though we lost it, it was close. And we have to move those people to a place where they are not afraid because they see all of us out there fighting, and they will come and join us. And I am so grateful to each and every one of you. You have the power, and we are going to take that power to take their power away. And thank you so much for what you are doing.
Thank you so much. We're in a fight, and they don't know how strong we are. They don't know how resilient we're going to be. When Amy Coney Barrett cast a vote on the Supreme Court just 3 weeks ago to say $2 billion was illegally being withheld from USAID, she was inundated, a Supreme Court justice, with death threats. Okay, her security has to be doubled, tripled. She has small children. They are trying to intimidate the judiciary. They're trying to intimidate members of Congress, okay? And we have to have the back of all those judges who we want to uphold the Constitution. We have to have the back of all of those people who are organizing in purple states, in red states, in red districts to stand up and to fight. We have to have their back. We're the leaders. We're up first. We're not just the Bay State. We're the brain state, okay? We're up first. We invented this country 250 years ago. We started it. We showed people what freedom looks like. We can't. I thank you all so much for coming out today. Thank you, Woburn.
Let's give it up for democracy. Give it up for Senator Markey in Whip Park.
Thank you all for being here. Please go out and visit the tables and the great organizations. This is how we win. Thank you so much.